everybody. Welcome back to the Leader Living Life podcast. We have a really exciting and special guest with us today, Dean Wegner, who is the CEO and founder of Authentically American, which is a much deeper company and mission than just the name. And I'm looking forward to talking through that with him. Dean, would you take a moment and introduce yourself, please?
Absolutely, Eric. And first and foremost, I'm honored to be a guest, so thank you for the invitation. And when I'm given the opportunity to introduce myself, I always start with what's most important to me, and I start out with my Christian faith and also talk about my family. My wife is quite a saint. She's put up with me for 25 years, so we've had an amazing, incredible journey together, and part of that, we've got 4 incredible kids. We've got daughters, Eric, who are 22 and 18. We have a 16-year-old son. We also have a 10-year-old son we adopted from Ethiopia. So talk about my faith, my family, fitness, and health is most important as well. And then from a business standpoint, the part we're probably going to talk most about is launching from a blank sheet of paper a little over 3 years ago, Authentically American. And we are a veteran-owned, American-made apparel brand.
So Dean, can you tell people a little bit about your military history? Because I think that there's a component there that leads to this American mentality and this patriotism that definitely comes across through you authentically, but also through your product.
Absolutely. And I think the way to tie that all together, Eric, is when I talk about the ethos of our brand, who we are, what we stand for, we're a brand that celebrates patriotism. We're a brand that believes in the American worker, and we're also a brand that honors our American heroes very intentionally. We donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities. And when I'm asked why, that goes all the way back to West Point. Graduated in 1993, and West Point is such a values-focused organization, university, and those are some of the key foundations that were taught to me very early on in my career. And then having graduated in 1993, went to flight school, learned how to fly helicopters, then went to the Army Special Forces Ranger School, and ultimately served 7 years active duty. And I still think back to the amazing men and women I served with that so selflessly, served their country. That's why today, when I launched a company, really wanted to say, okay, I want a part of it to be about how we can honor our American heroes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting because I've been getting educated about your brand, and just so everybody knows, this is an Authentically American shirt. And I have to compliment you guys. The quality, this is a nice shirt. It's not going to come across to people in the video, but once you put it on, you're like, this is a nice damn shirt. It's very comfortable, great fabric.
Eric, real quick, I love that you can say that, because sometimes, visuals and pictures, it's hard to do, but with you wearing it, and what I tell everybody is product is so important. We're a consumer product. We're a brand, we're an apparel brand, and our number one goal is for you to say that exact sentiment, that wow, absolutely amazing product. Forget where it's made. Like, Dean, this is my new favorite. I mean, when you feel the fabric of that t-shirt that you're wearing, you're like, it's incredibly soft, and you feel the print, you're like, wow, this isn't that heavy ink that I'm used to. It's tagless. And then when you look at the tag and see that it's made in USA, then you start to do a little research and say, this is a brand that I love the values, love who they are, what they stand for. That's when we start to become your new favorite brand, but it starts with product. We've got to have amazing product.
Yeah, and this is amazing, and it's reasonably priced. So I think that some people have this misconception that to get high quality American branded made products, somehow you're paying an unreasonable premium. And I don't feel that way about your products. The prices are very much in line with the market. So people definitely need to go give it a try and find that they're getting more than they paid for.
And that was another intentional choice. And you'll hear that word, quite often, because 3 years ago, it was a blank sheet of paper. That's part of the reason why I'm exhausted right now. It's literally been, brick by brick building the foundation. But also when we started with a blank sheet of paper, literally everything from the fabric to the messaging to the values, vision, mission, pricing, we could be so intentional about. And my thinking was to be truly authentic. we can't be a brand that's so high priced that nobody can afford it.
Right.
We want, everybody across the spectrum of society to be able to afford it. And we will never, ever be the cheapest, but we want to be competitively priced. And for everyone to say, this is my new favorite. They wear it on
Mm-hmm.
Friday, they want to wear it again on Saturday, then they quickly want to wash it, wear it again. And it's just a great value for what you're buying.
And so coming out, 3 years is actually a very brief period of time to come out of the blocks to where you guys
Doesn't
are
feel that
today.
way, Eric.
I know, but I help a lot of companies get through this period, and you guys are at a very professional, high level of maturity in your brand, and it's not just t-shirts; it's all of the products, and it's all of the branding. So if people they should go to your website. And see how well put together your messaging is. The fact that you have a supply chain deployed and manufacturing, the graphic arts components of having designs like this, none of that's really trivial. So for you guys to be only 3 years into this and be at that level of maturity is pretty astounding.
Well, Eric, I appreciate that. And that's a tribute to my team, because we launched because of my vision, my inspiration, but the only reason we're going to be here for another 3 years is because of the amazing team that we're building. And I think when we look to hire, one of the first things we look at is, alignment and values. When they're going to join the team, do they really believe in what we're doing? Are they passionate about what we're doing? Is this going to be more than just a job? And what we're finding as we continue to grow, if we start with values and somebody aligns with the purpose and who we are, then they're going to have that attention to detail to make sure that, every single element of our brand, from our marketing, from our customer, just across the board, is aligned with who we are.
Yeah, absolutely. Hire for that talent, and which I kind of wrap in values, beliefs, aspirational behaviors, things like integrity. And you can train for the skill. Listen, I'm not saying I'm not going to become an accountant, right? But sometimes you can get really enamored by someone's pedigree and completely miss in the interview process or the selection process values and beliefs. I mean, they're essential to building an intentional culture.
There's no doubt about it. And I'm glad you touched on that word, because we, as a startup, as you can imagine, are spending an immense amount of time, what we're doing. And me personally, I joke that 40 hours a week, I get that in by lunch on Wednesday.
Right.
And, balance is so important. We never sacrifice the family. We never sacrifice our faith and my fitness. But I mean, this is not a 9-to-5 job. And we don't ask anyone to go ahead and put in more hours than they're willing and able to give. But, it's a pursuit of passion. I mean, we work incredibly long hours. We're working hard. But at the end of the day, everyone loves what we do. We're feel passionate about the purpose we're pursuing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sometimes work doesn't feel like work when you're really well aligned with the mission and what you're doing. Can you talk a bit about how you put together the manufacturing piece? To me is really interesting because you've got American manufacturers producing some top-notch, top-quality products. How did you go about finding them? Was it difficult or easy? How'd you build that, for lack of a better term, alliance of partners to do this manufacturing piece?
I will tell you, Eric, it was incredibly difficult, and I'll give you an historical reference to give you an idea how difficult it is. So we've mentioned my undergrad, West Point. So I graduated in 1993. And to give you a historical reference, when I graduated in 1993, over 50% of the apparel in the U.S. was made in the U.S. Today it's less than 3%. I mean, that is
brutal.
all that is made here. So, I mean, it is incredibly difficult. And, going back historically in 2012, I bought a company, Omega Apparel, and they had a great niche producing dress uniforms for the military. So trousers, slacks, and skirts for Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. And that was really my first exposure to the apparel industry. And that's where I learned, wow, I mean, the industry in the US for the apparel industry has just been incredibly decimated. And one of the things I'm most passionate about is job creation. And over that 5 years is when, started to have this vision that, okay, I want to create jobs, but when we're in the government contract business, we don't really create jobs. We just steal them from somebody else.
Right.
Another supplier has it. So that's where this whole vision for Authentically American started to come together. And I am so fortunate for those 5 years, because that really gave me the baseline understanding, the infrastructure and the industry and everything about it, so that when it came time for my partner and I to transition and part ways, that I understood the industry. And I could go ahead and start to, fundamentally build that supply chain back to product being first and foremost. So, for example, the T-shirt that you're wearing, Eric, we've got somebody that I would say is the best T-shirt maker in the country in Texas. You know what? I need to get you a pair of our socks. Those are Carolina cotton, knit in Carolina. And when you pull them up at the beginning of the day, they don't fall down, they don't sag, they're incredibly comfortable. So T-shirts in Texas. We have socks in North Carolina. So I'm not wearing a ball cap now, but ball caps, we've got amazing ball caps we're in New Jersey. You and I were talking earlier, I mentioned being a hockey player. So we make hockey jerseys in Georgia. So all across the US in 12 different states. And a lot of reason why people are just now starting to hear from us for the first 2 years, we were really building the supply chain, building this infrastructure to enable us to grow.
Yep. And I think I read that B2B was a big part of your business initially. Is that correct?
Not just a big part of it, it was the sole focus, Eric.
Okay.
And a lot of people are like, well, Dean, that seems counterintuitive to where you're going. And I spent a lot of time, in due diligence and really wrestling with where I wanted to go, how we wanted to have this vision come to life.
Mm-hmm.
And after the Army, I did a couple of years with a Big Five consulting firm, but a lot of my marketing, branding, strategy, knowledge and understanding came from Procter & Gamble. Worked on brands like Crest and Tide, also worked at Mars, brands like M&M's and Pedigree Dog Food. And one of the things I learned, Eric, if you're going to launch a brand from a blank sheet of paper like I'm doing, it's incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
And reason being, nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
You don't have an audience. Nobody knows who you are. And I remember all the way back to my days at Procter & Gamble. Are you familiar with the brand Swiffer?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. So most people are, but it's hard to believe it wasn't that long ago that brand launched. I think it's now a $3 or $4 billion brand.
Yeah.
So I was there at Procter & Gamble when we launched there. The year one marketing budget alone was $100 million. $100 million. And I'm like, I have nowhere near that kind of money. So I thought, how am I going to make this vision that's very clear in my mind, make this come to life? And as I was doing my due diligence, I found out that businesses, whether you're Fortune 500, middle market, small businesses, they all buy branded apparel. So whether it's a polo like I'm wearing, whether it's a T-shirt like you're wearing, whether it's a jacket, they all buy branded apparel with their company logo. And that business alone, Eric, is an $8 billion market.
That's a huge market.
So the idea was, instead of having an audience to build from scratch, the idea was, go to a business that's already spending money and give them a choice. Give them a high quality American-made choice that's competitively priced, because they're already spending money. And I had planned that for the first 5 years or more as we established our brand. But one of the things that was a huge, huge blessing and a huge breakthrough us was just some national media exposure. Because I was very fortunate now. I've been on Fox and Friends twice. We had a feature story in Forbes magazine. I've been on Yahoo Finance, plus a lot of local media. And this was our vintage U.S. flag. You can see it in the polo I'm wearing. But Eric, we had more and more people say, Dean, how do I get just the flag?
That's cool.
And I just said, well, awesome. What are you talking about? And they said, Dean, I've read on your website. I saw about what you guys, and I love it when my company wears stuff like your polo, your T-shirt, because I love them. They're great product, but I just want to buy your stuff. Instead of a Nike or Under Armour polo, I want to buy just your brand. And that made me start thinking that, we need to come up with a plan. Yep. And just Q4 of last year was when we officially launched our own consumer brand. So Eric, you as a business owner could reach out to us and we could design polos, jackets, t-shirts, hats with your company logo, or now as you an individual consumer, as you did with the t-shirt you're wearing, you can go on and buy your new favorite t-shirt or your new favorite pair of socks. So really, two distinct sides of our business, the client side, the B2B side where we started, and now the consumer side.
Yeah, that's an interesting and not a simple transition. There's a difference between sending a box of 10 or 100 shirts and sending one.
Yes.
So, kudos to your team for, figuring out the whole e-commerce and supply chain piece of that. Because it definitely is a difference compared to B2B.
And Eric, if I gave you a virtual tour, because in the middle of a global pandemic, we did two things. One, we launched a capital campaign. And I don't think I've mentioned to you, but that's a whole, longer story if you want to go there, or
Sure.
on more of a crowdfunding capital campaign. But we also, based on my team's recommendation, brought our fulfillment in-house. And not that it's easy, but to ship a customer 100, t-shirts is, relatively simple. But if you've got 100 orders for a single t-shirt that's all across
Totally
the
different.
US, I mean, it's different dynamics. And we just brought our fulfillment in-house, and in the middle of a global pandemic, not only did we launch a capital campaign, but we moved into a new facility and brought our fulfillment in-house.
Yeah, and owning the customer experience cradle to grave, particularly in the consumer space, is really important, because you can have the one shirt customer who got it a day late, but has a social media presence.
Oh, yeah.
Right. In a corporate world, there are timelines, and it is important, but it's a little bit more manageable around expectations. It can be very difficult to manage a single consumer's expectations, and no matter how reasonable or unreasonable they are, if they're not met, they may have a pretty significant platform to rally about that. And having your hands around that whole experience, that has to be a powerful thing when you talk about customer retention and customer satisfaction.
It is absolutely, Eric, the number one reason why we made the decision to build our fulfillment house, because, customer is one of our core values. So whether it's a client or consumer, we wanted to make sure that we had a very customer-centric culture that we built. And if you called our 800 number, you're not going to get an automated message. It rings first to somebody at the front of our office here. And if they don't pick up, the next ring, it goes down the chain. And I wish I could say every single call we catch, but there are some times when you get a voicemail. But our goal is we want to talk to you.
Sure.
If you're calling, Eric, we want to hear from you. We want to hear, okay, what are we doing well? But more importantly, where are we falling short? What have we missed? Right. And one of the things I enjoy most is there's quite a few calls that we get that say, thank you. I've never even heard of you guys. A friend recommended to me. I saw your advertising, and I just wanted to say thank you, because I did not think there was an option like you out there. And that's part of the reason why, Eric, I'm so thankful that you extended the invite, because I don't know how many people your podcast reach, but it's going to be a relatively large number, and I want people to learn about us.
Yeah, we're in 20 countries, over 250 cities, but like 98% of our listeners are here in the U.S. So hopefully we can, I'm excited for my listeners to hear about you, because I'm so happy about the shirt, right? But also because I'm very happy about the mission. We've been doing a whole series of podcasts supporting, I don't know, has anybody ever coined the phrase vetrepreneur yet? Because if not, I'm going to coin that as a phrase.
I know it's out there. I don't know if it's trademarked, but I absolutely get where you're going.
As well as organizations that support veterans. So we've had the guys from Project K9 Heroes on, Irreverent Warriors. We have Patriot Boot Camp coming up. We're recording with them this week to try to help people, number one, hear how can they pitch in and help. So some of these are nonprofits, but also like where can they spend their money in a way that does something other than put a shirt in your mailbox, right? 10% in your industry, that's a lot. So taking 10% of your gross and donating that is not a trivial commitment at all. So, I hope that people will consider that. And they've just got to try the products because they're really good. And I think COVID-19 has also brought a ton of awareness about how little manufacturing is done in the U.S.
It is astonishing, back to that 3%, Eric. And you mentioned the coronavirus, and we had such a wake-up call as a country on how reliant we are on China and just overseas in general
Mm-hmm.
for our supply chain. And it's not been easy for us as a business during this challenge, but I will tell you, our business is stronger than ever, because now our tagline that you've seen, "Where's yours made?"
Mm-hmm.
Designed to be provocative and have people look at their tag and say, "Well, I had no idea where it was made." We are stronger now than ever because our website traffic is 3x. Our
Wow,
business is 3x.
that's
And
awesome.
we've done a lot of things getting ready for this, but a lot of it is just the circumstances, and oftentimes timing is everything. And
Yeah.
our business continues to build like this, but now with COVID-19, it is just taking off, because now there's more of a platform. People were really very intentional in saying, okay, country of origin is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
This whole tragic experience we've been through, a lot of it's due to that overseas supply chain. Now there's a heightened awareness, and when they do the search, they're like, wow, Authentically American, didn't even know it was out there.
Yep.
And then when they have a great experience like you're having with a t-shirt, then they're like, okay, let me tell my friends.
Yep.
Let me tell, my network, and it keeps to build.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I was talking to a friend of mine, but from my college days. He has a heritage farm, so he raises heritage breeds of pigs and birds and all kinds of things, for people that want not mass produced, not shipped from China or somewhere else type foods. And his business, he sold out for the rest of the year,
Oh,
because
wow.
people kind of stood back and said, no, wait a minute, where's dinner coming from? You know?
Uh-huh.
And started to pay much closer attention to those things. So I think that my opinion is that our ability as a country to produce food is a huge strategic advantage. You,
No.
you can't starve us out. We may not be eating all the bacon we want, but you can't starve us out.
No.
And I feel the same way about manufacturing. And it's interesting when you say 3 times the growth, the very first thing that came to my mind is that's job security.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is you've taken on this distribution portion, uh, that's security for those people that you brought in-house for those jobs, for the people that are working in all over your company. So I'm super excited to hear that about growth, because to me, that means jobs for Americans.
There's no doubt about it. And you've checked out our website, Eric, and our mission is tied to the heart of our passion for job creation.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about, creating jobs. And, a lot of our economy right now is technology based, or it's, social media, internet,
Mm-hmm.
everything there. And there were a lot of people that said, Dean, why are you going into something product wise? And it's really back to you touching and feeling it, say, this is
Mm-hmm.
just an amazing product. And I
Yeah.
found more and more people that work for us. Technology is important. I think, everyone's got a smartphone,
Sure.
but there are just a lot of people out there from our team just across the board in the US that want to take great pride in knowing that they're building something, that they're making something.
Mm-hmm.
That, Eric, you're putting that shirt on your back, you're having an incredible experience, and they want to continue to multiply that.
Yeah. And so let's talk about technology for just a second, Dean. From a supply chain management perspective and everything that you guys have going on, has that been a technology oriented challenge to bring automation and things like dashboarding and KPI, all of that type of optics into the business, both operationally and financially? Has that been a challenge that you guys have been tackling for 3 years would be really fast, but
It is a huge, huge challenge, Eric, and it's made even bigger because that's not where my forte is and not where my strength is. A lot of my background after the military has been in business development, sales, marketing, branding, strategy, that side. But back to building an amazing team. Andrew Polinsky is our director of operations and planning,
mm-hmm.
and he's got a background at Amazon. He spent 4 years there.
Yeah.
He also spent time at Pepsi, Frito-Lay, most recently at Schneider Electric. And what he likes to say, Eric, is, Dean, I know we're building an apparel brand, but I really want to, in my focus, feel like we're building a technology company
Mm-hmm.
that's disguised as an apparel brand.
Yep.
And I don't even understand half of what he says, but it's absolutely what we need. And, really being able to automate and grow and expand. So, our website traffic is up 3x. If we deliver on our forecast here, we'll be up 6x, but
Wow.
we're only going to have to add probably 1.5 times from an employee, from a teammate standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
because we are embracing technology and making sure that as we're growing and putting that platform in place, that as much as we can, we're automating, but still providing that personal, hands-on customer experience. As
Yep.
we're adding to our sales team, we're using a CRM system to make sure as much as we can, we're automating, but where it makes sense, keeping that personal touch.
Yeah. And that ability to scale, that's an important point, I think, for you guys, particularly when you're talking about a potential for 6x growth. You can't one for one add staff around technology and overhead and finance and those things. You have to have the scalability through automation and technology.
Yeah. And thank goodness for an amazing team, because it would not be happening.
No,
It
that's
was on
good
me.
stuff. Great. So, do you have any? Are there particular veterans charities or organizations that you guys have a significant relationship? How do you go about managing that piece of your commitment?
Yeah. And Eric, I'll tell you, the way this starts is one of the core values listed on our website is giving back.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to be so intentional about being an organization that is not just about sales and profit and jobs, that how do we make a difference?
Right.
I really started Authentically American to create jobs, make a difference, and ultimately leave a legacy. And back to that giving back, and I mentioned earlier on about the ethos being a brand that honors our American heroes. So we said we want to donate 10% of our profits to veteran and first responder charities.
Mm-hmm.
And when we started, since we're relatively small, there were two that we partnered with. One is the Folded Flag Foundation, and they're more of a national organization, and they work with Gold Star families.
Yep.
So they provide education to family members, surviving family members, from supporting Gold Star families. So that's one. And then there's another one that when we first started was relatively local. They're just north of Nashville, but this is Reboot Alliance. And they work with veterans and first responders. They have a faith-based PTSD program. So both of them are having an incredible impact, and that was an opportunity for us to go ahead and partner with both of them and see how we can partner with them to make a difference.
I hope the community returns in kind loyalty to you for that commitment to the veteran community overall, and that they do support your products and your growth.
They really have, Eric, and that 10% is the first way that we manifest that giving back.
Mm-hmm.
The other one is when we partner with a veteran or charity, or any charity for that matter, we provide our goods and services at cost.
Oh,
And
awesome.
when coronavirus first hit, the client side of our business, so we mentioned, companies that we work with, a lot of our business is event-based. So there's a national sales
Mm-hmm.
meeting or this specific milestone. So they're ordering company branded merchandise. As you can imagine, that part of our business dried up because there wasn't a national sales meeting happening.
Right.
And we were wrestling with, guys, what are we going to do? How are we going to respond in the midst of that? And as we sat down as a team, we said, you know what, let's have some perspective, because it's challenging for us, but think about some of our charitable partners.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? They're really struggling. If people are worrying
Absolutely.
about their paycheck, then they are not going to be able to go ahead and make a donation as they normally would.
Yep.
So we very intentionally, Eric, reached out to a lot of the charities that we had partnered with, and a lot of new ones as well. And they're like, yes, Dean, we're struggling. And we were able to come up with some amazing, unique merchandise that then they were able to share online. And, when we're doing it at cost, it gives them an opportunity not only to build their brand, but also allows them to raise some funds. So as part of that, like you did, wow, I never heard of Authentically American. This is an amazing t-shirt. And then they started making more purchases. So, as we pivoted in the midst of the coronavirus, it's, not only expanded our reach, but an opportunity to make a difference and really expand our brand.
Yeah, that's because for a lot of those organizations, the need didn't diminish for the people that they help.
It grew.
Yeah. And then then they have to deal with the reduction in funding. If I could shift just a little bit,
Sure.
on some of the topics that, because you're a keynote speaker, you do some training events, things like that. One of the things I think about from a coaching perspective is helping people understand that sometimes hard is hard. And what I mean by that is I'll talk to people who are just earlier in the mix of developing their business idea or getting into a professional space. And they'll see people, men and women who are more experienced, handle things in a way that almost seems easy. And it seems easy because that person probably has a lot of at-bats on that, whatever that be, leading a group, managing a meeting, managing a project, whatever it is. And because for some of these newer players, they're like, they feel that it's hard and therefore they must not be good enough to get there. And that's just not true. You just need the at-bats. You just need the iterations, because sometimes hard stuff is just hard. So I'm curious if you have some experiences or wisdom to share with the audience on, as you were doing this. I mean, 3 years is so fast to be at this point. What were there moments of doubt or times where you thought, man, how are we going to get through whatever that might be, where you just through determination and spirit had to continue to push through that?
Yeah. Well, Eric, I will tell you, it's still 3 years later, it's still not easy. There has not been a single day on this journey that I will ever say it's been easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke that after 3 years, I'm incredibly exhausted. I mean, when I hit the bed at night, I mean, less than 30 seconds, I am out. I mean, I can't even spell insomnia.
No sleep issues.
No, none whatsoever. But, when you talk about repetition, I talk about perseverance, because you know what, when you are in a startup entrepreneurial type position, it is not for the faint of heart. It's not easy. And anyone that asks if they want to go down this path, I tell you, there will be nothing more rewarding in my mind than doing this. But make sure that you get into this and have eyes fully wide open, because it's incredibly difficult. And I said, make sure, and this is always the very first thing I recommend, is make sure you find out what you love. Find something that you're passionate about and then pursuing it. Back to your analogy about at-bats, because another analogy is Malcolm Gladwell, his book with Tipping Point talks about 10,000 hours.
Yep.
If you're doing what you love, if you're doing what you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
I mean, most people would probably think I'm crazy and like, why are you not exhausted? And I am, but it does not feel like work. And it's not been easy. It's been incredibly challenging, but it's more about pursuing your passion than it is about working. And I think that's the first and foremost one. If you can go ahead and find what you love, find what you're passionate about, most likely you're not just going to be good at it, you're going to be great, because you're going to be investing those hours, you're going to be investing that time. And I've mentioned this a number of times about our team. I always talk about people, because you know what, one of my favorite sayings now, it's not so much what you know, it's who you know. And there are so many facets to that, but I'm talking about the right team. Right now, we are still relatively small, but we're starting to build a team that, I'd like to rival against anyone. And eventually I'll be able to sleep, and I sleep well, knowing that we got the team right here. So, I mean, 3 things to highlight would be, one, that passion, surrounding yourself with just amazing people with equal passion. And then, that perseverance, that drive, that hard work.
It's interesting, and I'm not diminishing the importance of the finances of a business, but throughout the past 45 minutes, whatever it's been, you haven't one time talked about dollars or money, because it's clear in just the way you talk, it just comes out that that's not why you're doing this. We're all paying the bills, right? But there's so many components of your passion and your motivation for what you're trying to do. Bring back Made in America, create jobs, have an amazing culture, still have a healthy family, have a healthy you. Those are the things that you're focusing on when you're communicating about it. And that's pretty rare. And I think that definitely puts you guys in a sustainable space, because I know behind it you guys have the fundamentals of taking care of the finances of the business. I'm not suggesting you guys don't manage that piece.
You absolutely need to. And Eric, that's one of the number one reason why, people in business, small business entrepreneur fail. And it's not because they don't have a great idea. It is really about the finances.
Right.
And I just think back to some of the stress I had at Mars, or some of the stress I had at Procter and Gamble, and these are Fortune 500, Fortune 100 customers that have 40 billion in revenue or 80 billion in revenue. And although there was stress, there is not stress like having to meet the payroll.
Oh, yeah.
If people would see my bank account the way it's been over the last 3 years, I think their heart would skip a beat, and there would likely be a heart attack or two.
Yeah.
And it's been the faith in what we're doing, and the belief that this is God's calling for what we're doing, and really called to make a difference. That, I can't tell you the number of times that I thought, we're going to run out of money for payroll, and a new investor comes on board. We were going to run out of money because customers weren't paying on time, and all of a sudden all the checks came in. It could be a whole hour itself, and all these different experiences where the finances came through. But number one, to your point, the finances have to be rock solid, because at the end of the day, it's a business.
Absolutely. It's not a school project. It's there's people counting on you, and the business to pay their mortgage and feed their kids. So I get it. I always joke with people, my salary on January 1st is zero. Welcome to the world of being self-employed.
Yes.
Dean, is there a particular challenge or a mistake? Being former military guys, we have this passion for the after action review, and being able to in a nameless, rankless way debrief on things. So is there any example that you'd like to share with the listeners that maybe you could save them a run-in with it if they choose to hear you out? That may be something you've learned over the past 3 years that jumps out at you and said, man, if I this is the one thing or two things I really wish I had better optics on before I got into it.
And forget the last 3 years, Eric. We could start the last 3 days, or the last 3 weeks, or the last 3 months, because it is a continuous learning journey. And I'll bring up one that is a focus for us right now. So I don't know if you've ever read or heard the book Traction.
I have.
Yep. So Traction, and it talks about this entrepreneurial operating system, this EOS. And there's no silver bullet. There's nothing magic about it. But one of the fundamental premises behind Traction is around focus. And as I started reading through this and looking at Authentically American, implementing it, I realized two things. One, Eric, that I was our number one enabler. But on the flip side, I also realized I was our number one distractor, our number one disabler. And reason being, I'm the visionary for our company, and I've got 25 things a day. And I'm like, well, why can't we do 25 things? What's wrong with us? And we tried to do so many things. We did nothing well.
Yeah.
And, we started this whole journey at the beginning of the year and said, okay, we can't do 25. We've got to do 3, 4, 5 and really do them well. And when they're ingrained in who we are and what we're doing, then we'll add another one. Yeah. And as we started on this journey at the beginning of the year, and I got introduced to Traction, it has been just a fundamental shift in how we're operating and the results that we're delivering. And it's just amazing, the power of focus. And I would have thought, well, hey, a strength is mine, and I can do a lot of things. I can do 25 things, but I really couldn't. It was just too much, especially when you're building an organization. So that's the most recent one, Eric.
That's a good one. And there's a kind of a hidden message in it too, is having the humility to be able to learn to do something different than what you're comfortable with. So, for you to take in information and say, wait a minute, as the leader, I need to refine how I'm impacting my organization and refine my focus so that I have people on 3 things, not 25 things.
Right.
So, that continuous lifelong commitment to learning, I think, is a really big part that separates great leaders from the rest of them. So, kudos to you on that one there. So, Dean, how can people, follow your organization? Obviously, we want them to go shop at the website, so let's be clear about that. But how do they get more information, stay connected to you guys? Like I follow you on LinkedIn, and you've been doing some great posts there. How do they get involved with you guys from a social media perspective or an online presence?
So Authentically American, so you can go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us. There is extensive information about us, as a brand, our story, our history. You can be a client, you can be a consumer. Then any one of the social media channels, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, you can follow Authentically American and just be part of this journey. And I would love nothing more, Eric, than people to buy from us, and I'll make it easy. So, you'd mentioned that I'm the founder of Authentically American. So if you go to our website, click on our shop page, and whether it's our new sweat activated print innovation, or it's the Founding Fathers t-shirt that you're wearing, or a polo like I'm wearing, anything there, when you go to checkout, if you hit the discount code, enter founder, that will be a 25% off discount.
Wow, that's huge.
And one of the things that we have on our website, Eric, is the Authentically American guarantee. And I don't care what it is, for any reason, if you're dissatisfied, we will fully exchange it. We'll offer a refund. And that's all tied to the fact that, we believe in the American worker.
Yeah.
And I don't want Authentically American just to be synonymous with Made in USA. I want it to be synonymous with a high quality, premium product that's your favorite.
Yeah, that's a good distinction, because you guys are not trying to ride the phrase "Made in America" as if how that should be the only reason, right? You guys are really producing a world-class product that is also made in America, and I think that people need to realize that. And the best way to do it, go get one shirt, go get a pair, get one thing, right, and try it, and you'll find that I'm not exaggerating how excited I was to put this shirt on and how comfortable it is. Dean and I don't have any other connection. I don't have any investment in the company, so there's no reason for me to somehow inflate my reaction to the shirt. So just go get one, or a pair of socks, or whatever.
I didn't think about this, but I've got, this, one of our t-shirts here, this Freedom, and
That's cool.
I don't know, did I share with you about our sweat activated innovation?
No.
So since you said this is not only audio, it's visual, so I've got the spray bottle, so I'm going to cheat because normally it's sweat activated, but if you remember the eagle that's here, so watch, I'm going to spray, and it's hard for me to hold and spray at the same time, but imagine you're sweating. If you remember the eagle that was there, so after you sweat, you can see this,
Oh, that is cool.
That appear. And Eric, we tested this with, a lot of my classmates and a lot of alumni from West Point. And at West Point, it's all about Go Army,
yeah,
Navy. So when you sweat, the Go Army appears, just like
that's
here.
That's great.
The stars and stripes. And I had mentioned being on social media, but I didn't go to anyone and say, okay, Eric, I know you just bought one. Do me a favor, post on social media after wear it. And it blew me away, because there's hundreds, if not thousands, of pictures now, on social media, people after they worked out, after they have sweat, posting it. And these, to me, I love it because it reinforces two great healthy habits. So one, is working out, and number two is exercising. And I actually had people in a fun way curse me and say, doggone it, Dean, I was working out and I wasn't getting the message here. What I have to do, I had to work harder.
That's great.
And this has been fun because, this is our own design, but we are now partnering with a lot of youth athletic teams and local fitness centers and gyms and charities and even some businesses. Back to the client side and the consumer side, we had a West Point grad that ordered one of those Go Army Beat Navy shirts, and he reached out and said, Dean, this is just amazing, and we're making a big health push for our company. He bought one, and then he said, okay, I want to order 1,000 for my business, because I think this is just going to be a fun way to reinforce this healthy habit, and it's part of our culture, and it's American made. So
that's awesome.
I thought since we had a few minutes, I'd highlight that technology. It's just been a Huge, huge game changer for us.
So I've got a Irreverent Warriors hike coming up in Charlotte in
Yes.
July. So now I have to go online and order one of those shirts so that as we get into our 8 miles on the Irreverent Warriors hike, my sweat equity
We'll
is,
see that
is,
message
is
appear.
visible. Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, Dean, any other thoughts you want to share with us before we wrap up?
I would just welcome Eric because it's very easy via LinkedIn or on my website. So if anyone has a question, anyone has a feedback, anyone has any thoughts, I would encourage you, don't hesitate, reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. For all the listeners, please go visit Authentically American. Just get one product and try it, and you'll find out for yourself. They really are pretty amazing. And Dean, you've been really a great guest. I'm so thankful that you made time. I know you got a busy day running a company, but for you to take time out for my listeners, I'm very grateful for that. So with that, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Share and like, and we'll talk to you here in the next episode.
All right. Thank you, Eric.